Okay, let's start from the basics from the example project. So you can download this project in the GitHub. You just find getting started. Then you will see such kind of projects. It contains some README. If you don't install, this is a Maven project. But if you don't install Maven, you still can run it like a Maven wrappers without installing Maven. You will download everything you need, the Maven needs, and start the Maven. And you can run this Maven without installing any or deploying to any vacation server. You can just run the Maven JD run because it configure a Maven JD Maven plugin. You will start a Maven the JD building JD, and you can run it visit like this. This is the way I run my example project. So first you can today I will show you with IntelliJ IDE, but maybe you use other IDE or even use Maven, that's okay. But I will show you. If you use IntelliJ, you can follow our guideline here. If you check the, sorry, if you check our installation guide, you can find there's a create and run your first application in IntelliJ. So I strongly suggest you, if you use IntelliJ, you can install the plugin. It's a plugin, IntelliJ plugin for ZK application. So it will show you, you can just install from the plugin market. And it helps you to, when you type some rule, it will show you some content assist. And I will show you, for example, when you open the ZUML, and when you type something like this, it will show you the tag. You can select without remembering everything, and there is a attribute content assist, so you don't have to remember, for example, type V, something like this. So the plugin will help you to build the ZUML efficiently. And let's back to slides. So this is the first I will suggest you, if you use IntelliJ, you have to do this setup. And second is about Maven. If you start by importing the project, that the project already contains a Maven POM file. So you don't have to specify it, but you have to, it's better you understand why we configure like this. For example, the repositories and the artifacts here. So if you start from a new project, then it's better you, sometimes some problem happens. So these articles also in installation guide, you must check here. It will tell you how you use ZK in Maven, all the required setup here. There's a evaluation version and some authentication you need to set up. You use a commercial premium user. So remember, if you use Maven, please check this document. And we strongly recommend you to use Maven because it can solve some dependency problems. So instead of downloading every jar from everywhere, okay. Next, it's better to, there's also development best practice I will also mention today. You can check this document here in ZK developer reference. So if you want to, for example, separate your ZK XML, some for development, some for production, you can do so. And also I would suggest you use a hot swap supported JDK so that you don't need to reload need to restart the application server every time when you change your Java code. And you can also configure a JD Maven plugin. Okay, I will mute someone. Okay. And use JD Maven plugin. Then you can just start without deploying and packaging your project every time to a vacation server. So it's just start your project in several seconds. It will be very fast. If you don't need, you just need to develop with ZK. You don't need some enterprise like JSP or enterprise Java Bean. So this is the recommend practice. So if you already import a project, a Maven project, then IntelliJ will also put those projects, the repository into its list. So if you create a new project here, for example, we try to create a new project. Actually, in IntelliJ, it's called new module. So I would suggest you, new module here. And when you create a new module, select Maven. I would suggest you to create from the archetype here. So if you ever import EK's repository, EK's Maven project, for example, our tutorial Maven project, it contains the repositories, and that repository will contain the archetype. The archetype is some kind of some kind of project template. It's a POM template, so you can start from a template sample setting starting from nothing from scratch. So it will help for beginners to just quickly start a new project without configure by yourself manually. So for example, we can select this EE evaluation, and this is for CE. So if you want to see, you can choose this. If you want to try our EE evaluation, ZK, you can choose this. And EE evaluation there's a startup time limitation, but all features, you can try all enterprise features. So it doesn't, in function wise, it doesn't have any difference from the official version, but it just has startup time limit. So for example, if we create a new module, we call it test under this, and you can set up group ID and your artifacts or your version. Just leave it like default. So if we click next and use Maven and archetype version, you can use 9.1. For example, now is 9. Oh, this is archetype version. Okay, it's okay. So just click finish, then it will create a new project. Just need a moment because when you create a new project, just start with a relative empty POM. And then you were creating some inserting POM content here. So it takes a few minutes, especially when I share the screen, so it will take longer. But it's generating projects. Take some time. Okay, you can see it will generate the POM setting for you, so you don't need to generate and configure by yourself. So you can see it will generate this a sample file for using ZK CE and ZK EE evaluation, and you will configure you a ZK version with EE evaluation and contain some Maven JT plugins. Okay, this is what you can do. And it also generates the Eclipse setting and project. So you can also import this project into Eclipse. But if you're using IntelliJ like me, then you don't need this file. You can delete them. Okay. So this is how you can start from a new project. But today we will start from, to save your time, I just create an empty project here, getting started. Okay. So you can also clone or download this project from our GitHub and import it. Then you can have everything I mentioned here, every source code. So you don't need to start from beginning. So that's also, that's the basic from starting from example project. Okay. Then that's declaring the domain class. Okay, because to save your time, I don't mention too much about this. Because today we will build a card. Okay, sorry. JDK doesn't define it. So, okay, I need to define it. Okay, it will compile. So because it's a new project. So today we'll do a car searching application. But in your application, it might be different things, might be person, might be employee, might be some records, but yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just show you that I assume, because this is not the point, the key points of today's application, I show you, oh, assuming that you already have a domain class like this is car, and usually you will maybe define a service class and the interface that is just for my simple application, I just need two. One is two methods, one is find all, another is search to search a car, and find all to get the whole list. And this is the interpretation of a car survey. So I just use a static car list, a linked list that store all my car example to simulate a database. Sure that you, in your class, your real example, your service class might have a DAO, a data access object here that can query or do some search or query for you. So we just simulate that because it's not the key points. It will make my application too complicated. So we can ignore the part. So just said, assume that you already have this. Okay. Then that's next one. Then we'll start to building the user interface. Okay. The user interface here, it divides, as I say, it divides into three parts. So let's start to build from our getting start. Okay. Let's change another place. So here you can do search MVC like this. Okay, we can create a new ZUML and start from ZK. And the first part is we want to use a window because this, you don't have to use a window, but yeah, in this application, you want to create like a desktop application. So usually we'll use window as an outmost component, and we can give some width, or you can give some, for example, like you can give 40%. This also okay, and the window can have a border like normal, and yeah, I can use style. This is just okay, and just a window, and because I want to start to say one of the best practice is we want to start with a Maven JD plugin. So in this POM file, I already configure Maven JD plugin like this. Okay, you can just copy paste here, and this is scan interval. I won't use this. Okay, I want to specify the context mess is project artifacts. So I will start this project was getting start, get ZK up. Okay, so after in IntelliJ, you can configure, after you configure Maven JT plugin, you can start by adding a run configuration, Maven run configuration, and you can select the project here and just specify your goal here, JT run. For example, there are a lot others, but the simplest one is JT run because it doesn't need to, for example, JT, you can see there are others. Some needs to deploy to WAR, but because to save up time, we just use JT run. That's the simplest one. And after that, you can run this project by clicking this or this debug mode or normal mode, and you will run the project in localhost 8080 port. So you can see it will start in a few seconds because I'm sharing a screen, so you will be late, but usually you will start in 6 seconds. Oh, it's failed because I'm starting another jetties, so I need to stop. And start again. Okay, then we start. So if you forget your, it's okay to, if you forget to your context path, that's okay. Because if you visit the 8080, will show the context path here. Then you can get here, and by default, you will list your file, so you can get, oh, there's a search file here. So this is what we have done here. So it's a search. So make it smaller. We can put it side by side to let you understand more. So this is search. Okay, so this is search. So every time, previously ZK has the visual edits plugins and can preview the results, but we deprecated that features. And so now I will recommend way to building a ZUML, and you want preview that is to start a JD server in your POM, and you can start it like this. And so every time when you want to you modify a ZUML, the ZK will do some you will check what you have modified. For example, we can do a style margin auto to make it center, and I can reload this page and it will just give me the result. So you can quickly just see the result of what you have done. For example, 50%, I can, maybe it's too small, 50%, like, oh, maybe it's even too small. I think I can make it larger. So you can just modify here and reload here, so you can get a quick preview of what you have done. Okay, so this is the first step is usually we start from building a user interface. We put a window outside, then we will put the first is the search keyword and the text box here, ID. We will give you ID in MVC patterns because usually we want to wire the component. I will talk more later. Maybe called keyword. So we will specify ID so that we can easily grab this component later. So this is a search, for example, search button here, a label search. So we can preview a little for our current result. For example, like this, okay, keyword, text box, button. So the and if we want some icon, like icon search, we can use icon search. Search, okay. Because ZK now already include by default include the font awesome icon 4.7 by default. So you can easily to reuse the to use the font icon, font awesome icon 4.7. And how do you know the font icon name? You can just check the font awesome 4.7. Check their website. They have list all the icons that you can use. So for example, you can search here. So this is the icon, its name is search. So you just prepend the Z icon search that will become, that will show this icon search. So if you use another icon search plus, for example, you just type a search plus. Okay, save, then we can reload here. So you can see it becomes search plus. So this is how you can use a building plugin here. By checking this list, you can use the ZK building without including anything. This is already building. Okay, so this is our search area. If we think this is too, they are too close to each other, maybe we can add some padding here by using style that will style this buttons, for example. Then we can reload. You can see there are more 5 pixels paddings Okay, this is the search area that we already made. Okay, then next you can make, okay, the search area. Then we should use a card list area. The card list area, we use our component like this box. This box can list, or you can give it a list of collection of objects, and we can show it. And this is the empty message, means if there's no way, no data show, then we can show it. For example, because there's no data usually at default, so it's better to show users a no card found or no card that user will know, oh, this is not an error or something happened. Okay, so the list box allow you to select items. And we want to use the list headers. So the headers with 3 columns like model, make, price. So this header, you can also specify the width because price usually is smaller. And we can, okay, so this is the search area here. Okay, and because we just building the UI, so later we will fill the data. Okay. And then the bottom one is the call details. Call detail, we will use H layout. It means it will lay out your component horizontally 100% like this. And we want to show an image about a car, view image, and it's was 100%, and we show later we want to show, oh no, I want just image. So there's the image here because it's empty now, so you don't see anything. And V layout, so a V layout means vertical layout. You will arrange your objects into a vertical order. So because I want to show some like model, make, price, and description, so I need 4 labels here. Okay. So this is roughly our UI is made. But since there's no data, it looks just nothing. So usually after building this user interface, you can see here I demonstrate you is these components, and this file we call it ZUML, means it's a ZK user interface language. So every tag means a component. It's not HTML tag. There's a tag set in our documentation. You can check our component reference or check our demo to see. The demo will show you some components, but here in component reference, it will show you the complete component and their properties. So every component have its own property. For example, buttons, and its tag is buttons or lowercase. So you can see there are lots of features and properties here. And so you can know which property means which function. For example, here there's auto disable, so you can check what's the contents. This will show you the property names, what we call attribute names, but it doesn't tell you the function. So you can check the document here. And the document doesn't list all the properties because there are most of them in ZK convention. If there is a property, there is the setter and getter. So we can check the Java API to know the complete list here. So you can see there is a getter for auto disable. So, and then there must be a setter for set auto disable. So there must be an attribute called auto disable here. So there's a direction dir. So there must be a dir attribute. So etc. For example, href. Okay, so you can check because something is very quite simple. So we don't, for example, set disable. You will know that just disable the button. So we don't list uh, disable true false like this. We don't list all the properties here. So you can check Java, but we will list something that is more complicated that you need more knowledge to set it here in the document. So you can check our every attribute that maps setter and getter. Okay, so you can see if there's a setter getter, then there must be attribute. Okay. So you can let's check. So there are three areas, and they're tag and the attribute and setter and getters. So if you want to know the component usages, you need to check the component reference. So that is what you need to know when you're using ZK's components. Later, after using ZK components, we can start to implement UI logic. And before that, we can try to implement a prototype. If you because when developing application, usually you have end users, and usually they will describe you something, but sometimes that the description is very raw, is very abstract, or unless they know it very clearly what they want. But sometimes if you're creating a whole new page or whole new features, they sometimes don't know what they want. They just describe you some idea that I want something like this or something like that, but you don't know. So that's better. You can give it something to see or to play. So there's ZK. There's a tag we call ZScript. I mean, you can type Java code here to do something quick. For example, we can give some sample data here. Tutorial. First, I need to import the tutorial class here. And I want to use a list model, list to, we call it model. Because in ZK component, the list model is a model-driven rendering component. So you need to give it a model instead of typing list item one by one here. Yeah, you can do so like this item by typing a label value, for example, test 1 and 2 and 3. So this is when you want to test something or you want to know how does it look. Oh, not this item. It's called this cell. Sorry, it should be called this cell. Okay, then it will tell you, yeah. Unsupported child usually means you type a wrong child here, and it's called label. Yeah, label here. So I type something wrong. For example, it will show you the line 31 in column 5. So let's check. Oh, okay, because the code is incorrect. So you can see here, this is we call static data, but you need to type everything in here manually. So it's usually just for test, not for real case. So we won't do so in a real application. So we need to do is to solve, is to give the application, give the list box a model. That we call model driven rendering. If you check our document, there's a simple explanation. Like this is a list box, and you will give this model. The model just contains the domain object like your car, person, the record, the item. There's also the class that just pure data without any ZK components. So this is your list, your model. We suggest you use ZK's collection object like list model, list model, map, list model, set, instead of Java collection object. And you can set data to a component like this model. And this model contains a renderer, or you can define a template. So let's play something like MVC roles. This is controller, this is view, and this is model. Okay, MVC. So the component, the list box will get data from your list model, and this model, when you do something change, we will notify component, and the component will call the renderer to render the data. So this is what we call model-driven rendering. Okay. So if we want the list box to show something, first we need to create a card. For example, you create a card here, just for quick, and I can add model here, and then I need to set this model, assign this model by set model to card list box. And why we call card is because there's a ID here. The ID will be the variable of the object of this component. So I can use card list box here. So I new, sorry, I don't new a list model list. Yeah. So I need to new this model. So the ZScript is just for convenience for prototyping. It doesn't check your syntax, so you have to know your child syntax. If you type something wrong, you will see something like this, and we will need to check what we done wrong here. For example, card list box, it will show you the line 33. So maybe I do something wrong in line 33, card list box model. It will show you what's the reason. Attempt to resolve the model on undefined variables. Oh, okay, sorry. Because the ZScript must be put inside the window. Okay, so you can find the variables. Okay, so you can see we set the model to the card list box and it will render it. Now, currently, because we don't define any template, so it will just render two strings. So we need to define a template. What's the template? The template is a small snippet of ZUML, like here. The name has to be a model, and we need to define how to render each list item. Okay, how to render each object in the collection. So for example, I can say each model, because each means the car. This is the implicit variables we defined. So the each means a car. That means one object inside this model list. So you can see the model here, because the car has a model. The car has a make, and a car has the price. So this is I can divide its three columns. And the price, I want to add some dollar sign on it, so I can use EOX3 expression like this. Use single quote means string, and plus equals means the string concatenation with these variables each price. And because there's some limitation, so ZK enforce you to have to this braces, these parentheses, so that you can add concatenate a dollar sign here. Okay, so this is our simple. You can show some data here, but sometimes we want to do some prototyping. I might want user to interact with this application, so I don't want to show it at first. At loading, I want to show it at, for example, when user click the button. So for example, I want to, when user click the search, and it just show the data. Okay, so there are some ways to do it. For example, and I do this. Okay, I declare a method called search. So here you can see I just set the model. So the model contains nothing. Okay, because I didn't add the car, so it shows nothing. I want this. Remember, we are just implementing a prototype, so it's not a real application. So I can call search here to add the event listener, call unclick event listener, and call the search method I define here. So let's reload it. And when I call search, no matter what I type, just call search, it would just show this uh, this this area, this data. So they will make user look feel like, oh, how do you interact with this page? Although it's just dummy object, dummy data. But yeah, remember we just implement a prototype, not a real application, but just make user understand what happens when he do something. So we can do so like prototyping. Then because there are two features, I want to stimulate the next feature about showing the details. So I can implement another method called select here. Okay. And because this is a model-driven rendering, so if we want to get the model, what user select, we need to call model get selection. Okay. For example, like this. We get model, get selection, it will return you a set, and you can say get me iterator, and get me next car, selected car. And we in MVC patterns, if you want to set a publish value to browser, we need to call set value. So in order to do so, we need to give the ID for this label so I can control it directly. For example, this we call model label, and this we call make label, and this is ID, and this we call maybe it's price label. And this is what we call description label, something like this. So, okay, now we can publish the change the labels values by calling its setter, for example, like this. Okay, I can just call model label because I named it model label. Okay, and I call set value and I pass the selected car's model string here into it. I can, next one I pass make and price to string and get description. So every time I call set value, the label will change for me. Okay, so let's do it. For example, search. But I want to do it when user select this item, and it will show the detail. So when user select this, the list function will fire on select event, and I can register event listener on select event and call select here. Okay, let's reload. So search and click here. Okay, there's something wrong. I think might be a typo. Let's check the error to see what happened. I think maybe there's a typo. Version list model and define request and card. This no. I think this is the previous one. Okay, I think there's might be something cannot resolved a variable here. Hey, where is the exception? Price here. In the line 7, in line select, I think there must be something. The selection for the value. Okay. Let's try again. Select. Okay. Okay, so it will show some, but I think there's something wrong because maybe I didn't do it right. ToString, yeah, select. We can comment one by one to know which one produce the problem. For example, okay, I think it's the price. So the price has some problems. Uh, okay, so this is one way that you can start building some prototype here. So it's very quick and you can show something to users, although it's just dummy data. Okay, then let's start from price level. Okay, I think this must be some price level. You mean I have typo? Price level, P-R-I-C. Okay, okay, this label is okay. There must be a typo, I think. Okay, so I think this will work. Thank you. So this is a prototype. Then let's start from a real way. The real way is to create a real controller in Java class, not just using this. So first you need to create controller by extending our selector composer. Then you apply the controller to the page. And then you will add event listeners in the controller. So this is the way how you do it. So if you check our README, there's a flow. So when you apply a controller, okay, later. So let's start from creating a controller. So let's, for example, create called, maybe we just call it search controller. Okay. And we need to extend the selector composer. Okay. So this is not the only way, but this is the simplest way for beginners. So just follow this. Maybe you will heard some other composer like generic forward composer. Maybe someone you will see some old code. But now we suggest you use this one because it's more flexible. Okay, so let's start from building the search features. So first we start this, we create this composer or controller. Then we need to apply a controller to a UI components. So the apply way is to use apply attribute here and specify the full collaborating tutorial composer here, controller. That's done. So usually we'll apply a composer or controller at the root level, because then this controller can control all its child components. Yeah, surely that if you want to just control this one with one controller, then you can apply here. Okay, for example, my controller. That means your controller can only control these components, this text box, and everything else is hard. So usually we will use this to control the whole page or whole block. Okay, and then then we need to listen to user action, because first we want to implement the search. So when someone click the search, I want to do some search. So let's remove this listener here. Okay, let's remove the. And in ZK selector composer, we will use, for example, we will first implement a method called search, like this. And the search because we want to listen unclick listener. So I want to unclick a button. So you can use, there are several ways. First is, if you remember the name, you can use unclick and use search button. The short sign name means the ID selector. So we select a composer is a composer that allows to select to regis event listener by by selector syntax. So you can see there is a check is Java doc. It will show you some examples here how you select and wire components. So it registers event listener with selector syntax and also wire component by selector syntax. That's why we call it selector composer. So you can also check development reference to know the whole complete syntax. Okay, this ID means search component. That means there's an ID here called search button. So we use this to fire the event listener. So in search, we will get the keywords from the keyword box. So we need to wire the keyword because I want to get the component in the ZUML. I want to know how user, what user input. So I need to get the reference of this text box. But in ZK, you don't need to new a text box. For example, you don't need to do so if you are using a ZUML. You don't need to new a text box because when the browser visits this ZUML, the ZK will parse this ZUML and create components, objects according to this ZUML. So actually, the ZK will do the component for you, do creation component for you, and you will also assign this attribute value into the components with its setter. So for example, when user visit this ZUML, the ZK will parse and see there's a window. So he will new a window object and call set title, set width, set border, set style, etc. to initialize this component for you. So they're already ZK already built a component tree for you, so you don't need to write a new statement. So instead, you should write a wire by declaring a variable for here. For example, you need to declare a keyword box, and this is the default convention. You declare a variable whose variable name match its ID. So there's a keyword box. So you need to create a variable with keyword box and with wire. If it's not the case, you have to write this. For example, I want to use another name like key box. Then I need to use a selector syntax like keyword box here to say, okay, I want to wire a component whose ID is keyword box, and I want to use another name. So for simplicity, we just use keyword box here as a variable. That will be simple. So I don't need to specify a selector syntax. Okay, so in this search, I want to implement my application logic like getting the keyword. So the keyword box, I want to get values here. Okay, so I can, for example, I can print it here. Okay, so I can compile this file. Remember, I tell you that there's a hot swapping supporting JDK. You can download. If you download and you start your application server with debug mode, for example, now we started with debug mode, then you will start to support hot swapping. And when you modify your class, modify, for example, the content of the method, then you don't need to restart the whole application server. Then you will hot swapping. For example, okay, now we already start keyword. Okay, so that's already start. And we can type something and type here, click here, then you can see print keyword here. Okay, it's just print what we type. And we can add something like here. So input. Okay, then I compile the file, the Java file, then you will see here, then you should print one class reloaded. Okay, now we reload. Okay, and type test here. And you can see it's input column test. Okay, so this is very convenient. You don't need to restart. Can save you some time. So this is what we do. But sometimes there's still some case it cannot reload. It will tell you, for example, adding a new method. So okay, and in this case, because we want to do the search, so we need to include the car service, for example, the car service here. For simplicity, we just create a cars implement. Okay, here. Okay, use a car service that it will query car service for me. And I also need a model class, a model to store my result. So there's this model list with car, and we call it data model. Okay. So let's do it. And so for search, I need to, for example, clear the previous results because the model contains the search results. So I can add all to do some car service, and there's a search for keyword. It's okay. So when I search for keyword, it will return a list of cards, and I'll just add it all into data models. Okay, let's compile to see if it still works. Okay, I forget one step is I need to put this, assign this data model into my list box. So first I need to wire my car list box. Okay, I write why my car list box is here. Okay, I need to wire car list box. And I will want to wire it after the page is already created. So I need to override a lifecycle method called do apt compose. That means the all component already created. And remember to call super because this will create all component and wire event listener and components for you in the super class is selector composer. So it's better to put your initialization logic here because every component is created and every event listener and object, every variables components are wired. So let's just call this box set model, data model. Okay, that will assign the model to a car list box. Then later, after this assign, no matter which method you call, for example, like clear, add all, remove, then this model will notify this car list box because they already established a connection. So let's remember the model-driven rendering. If you set the model, then make the connection between the list box and this model. Okay, let's compile. And just to see if it still reload, because sometimes there are some cases that the hot swapping doesn't work. Okay, you say one class reloaded, I mean it works. Okay, so let's try, for example, search. Okay, that it works. So yeah, you will receive my keywords and the search. So this is the search function that is we implement for this, just using the model, you're getting the keywords. Okay. So the next one is about to show details. To show detail is public void show detail. Okay, so it's the same, almost the same things. Okay. And here now we want to listen unselect because this is what when we select an item, we want to show the details. Select and unselect should be on the for simple. I just be on select off event of card list box. Unselect card list box. If you don't remember those names, you can also call events dot on, let's select something like this. So you can also use this as a help. For example, if you don't remember the name, you can do so. Like, okay, this is the same. Okay, show details. When we want to show the detail, we want to know which car is select. So we can call data models get selection, and you'll give you the car. So for example, you can select, if we printed the selection here, let's compile and reload it. Okay, reload, okay. And to see if I just search, okay, and I click here. Oh, I think it doesn't reload this one. So I need to restart it. Let's restart the server. Stop and run. Yeah, usually if you add this kind of annotation, it doesn't hot swap it correctly. Okay, maybe I misunderstand something. I think it prints something, right? Okay, right. Oh yeah, it really prints here. Okay, so that means we already get what we get here. Maybe I should get selection. Oh, because it's an iteration. Sorry, it should be a selection iterator next. It should be car here. So for example, I could get model here. So this will really print a car. Okay, reload it. So that means you can search and type and you will print a Camry. Okay, this is the model. Okay, so this is the way you can get the selection because the model store the state, the data and the state of this component. So it's better when you manipulate a component, model-driven components, you need to manipulate these models. Then we need to publish these data into our detail area. So we need to wire several components like those components here, in here, image and label. So we need to wire those labels here. What we all use is label ID as a variable name. So just we will wire it. And later we need to set. Okay. First, we need to store the selected card into a variable. For example, like this is a selected card. Then we need to publish them one by one. For example, set the image source by get preview, set the model by get model, etc. Okay, so this is the method we set. And since we add, okay, it seems it still works. So we can search and click here. So it will show the selected here, here, here. Okay. So because it shows too much car here, we can limit its visible item by rows. For example, I just want maybe 3. I can reload it. So when I search, it just shows 3. In maximum item, I need to scroll it. So this will make the screen smaller. Okay. So this is what we implement for show details. Okay. So template here and the detail here. Okay. So let's talk about the process here. the underlying process. You see here, when a user click event, that it will invoke the event listener here and fire actual request. So you don't see any URL change. And the ZK will run your event listeners. Maybe you access some data from the data model or from your database and calling the setter. When you call in component, setters will actually collect this and convert into a response JSON into a hash map. And then later, when ZK execute whole event listener methods, then you will collect this response and respond this JSON data into HTTP response into the browser. In the browser, there is a ZK JavaScript engine. You will read this command from the server in the JSON and tell the JavaScript widget to do something. For example, render new items, something. Okay, so this is the roughly the process. Okay. Then final, I think we already complete this. And you are large prototype search card display card, I mentioned it. So I just quickly tell you about what's the difference and about between the MVVM and MVC. So this is what we call MVC patterns. Means you create. Surely the MVC is a general term. It's not ZK's MVC. So we just use this term MVC to refer to one design patterns in ZK we support. This is called in model view control. That means you control these components, control your application by calling these components API. For example, you call these components setter, you call it getter to control the component. So this is what we call MVC. This is traditional patterns you can use in ZK. It supports from the very beginning of ZK. And the benefits is, this is the first pattern. The second pattern is we call MVVM. It just replace the controller with view model. And the view model just don't contain any variables in variables for components. It's just a pure data. And how you connect between the page and the view model by data binding expressions. So there is much framework working between the view model and the component. So you need to know more about what ZK component do for you. So the MVC advantages is very intuitive and easy to understand, because what happens is what you program. It's very clear. Just ZK just do very little things. Just you click the button and evoke the method for you. And what the method do is what you implement here. So it's very easy to understand. So it's very good for the beginners and to start with ZK. So you can control a component in fine-grained because you have your Java API control. You can even new window here and append it to the page. So you can create component, you can remove components. Everything is under your Java control. So you can do many things in very flexible way. So that's the MVC advantage. But in MVVM advantage, if you check MVVM, for example, let me show you. This is the search view model. You can see this view model doesn't contain any variables of windows, this box, nothing, just contain data and methods. Okay, so it connect with MVVM with the view with some kind of this kind of syntax, like we call data binding, to connect between, to tell ZK when do you send data to server, when do you load data from the view model. So it's a very indirect, but that's its benefits to suitable for design for contract. It means you can define a contract, say, oh, I want just the view model just contain a list and some data you can have defined it very clearly. The view model just contains data, and this data can be connected to any kind of page because it doesn't know his page. It doesn't know which components connect to this data. So you can just decide by say this view model contain which kind of page, which kind of operation. Then you just need to call it by data binding. So it's loosely coupled with view. That means if you can reuse the view model for different view, only just if these views, these different ZUML just need the same data and operation, then you can reuse the same view model again and again. So it doesn't, for example, in our controller, we have a variable called car list box. If you want to change these components in ZUML, that means you need to change the code here in your controller. So the controller has the deep coupling between your ZUML. So every change in your ZUML might cause a change in your controller. That's the decoupling. But the view model case and MVVM patterns, when you change the ZUML, usually you just need to, if the data still, you just need the same data. You just need to display them, but maybe display in a different way. Then you just need to change the view, change the data binding syntax. The view model usually doesn't need to change. So it's a better usability, best testability, because the view model just a pure Java object. You can test it by unit test. And has better for response time because you just like say you can associate a view model with different view. So yeah, so you can create two view, one for mobile, one for desktop. Okay, so there's a comparison here. Okay, so this is what I introduced today. So now it's a Q&A section. I think we either you can type some question in your chat or you can open your microphone and yeah, just speak out your questions. Then you can download this whole source code here in GitHub. Okay, where is the GitHub? Yeah, here, just check the course demo, getting started. Okay, so you can get everything here. And just like I say, you can just run it in Maven JD and visit this URL. You can see all example today. Okay, someone asked if I'm using inside Spring Boot, have to make REST controller rotation inside controller. I don't think so. If you want to ZK Spring Boot example, you can check. There's another articles here. We have a ZK Spring Boot run your first application because ZK doesn't run like a RESTful API. Sorry, it's not it. Here, you can check. There's a GitHub example. It will show how to use Spring Boot with ZK. There's a jar, the jar way, or using a var way. There are different examples. So another example, another question is how can you load data in phone like using the by EX? I'm trying to implement update when user click a button and then it's load in a model. I'm not sure about your question. Maybe you need to show me the ZUML. But loading data usually use if you mean load data from view model, that means you need to use load. A byte is also okay, yeah. But and when does it load? Usually it will load the data at the first time when the page creation, and then later you need to use notify change. Then the load binding will be loaded. So there are just two ways. So remember, if you want to load, you want to trigger a load binding load, you need to use the notify change. And the notify change, the basic way is to use notify change notification and specify the property. For example, I want to notify change this selected object. I just notify change here and specify selected. Or there's a smart notify, or there is a programmatically notify change here, like here, notify programmatically. There's an API to notify change. So usually, if your case is just, for example, someone click a button, then the button will invoke a command. Yeah, it will invoke a command. So usually you should specify notify change in the command, like this one. If you click the button will invoke the command binding safe order. Then you want user wanted to load here, reload this selected. So you should specify notify change. That usually because in this method you change these properties content. So you want the component to reload these properties for you. Okay. I hope this answer your questions. Okay. Is there any other questions? You can unmute your microphone and speak your question, or you can just type something in the chat. Okay. And next time we will talk about some debugging tips, and please not keep attention to our website. Then we'll notify you. We will publish the next training. Okay. So if there's no questions, or if you still have questions, you can email to the info, or if you are a customer, you can just mail to support. Okay. Okay. So if there's no more question, then we will end our training today. So thanks for everyone's joining. Thank you. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.